Right, so all my components have arrived. This time I went with Falcon Acoustics for the capacitors. I haven't used those before. I normally get them from a few different suppliers, but yeah, this time I thought I'd give them a go. I think one of the things they're really good for is the fact they measure all their components before they send them out, because you could buy them, even though these have a rating of 10% tolerance. They test them and you can buy them like at 5% if they've measured them that way. I think that's how it works. But anyway, yeah, so I've got all my components from them, and I've gone with owl caps for all of these. Some kind of lower grade for the woofer circuit, because they're very high values and the frequencies are low, but some of the better owl caps for the mid-range and tweeter. So we've ended up with a 6 microfarad, 2 12s to make a 24, because I could only get a 22, so I've done it that way. 72 and a 72, 2 2s to make our 4, and a 6 as well on the tweeter. So yeah, this is one that I've done, so that's what we're going to end up with. Pretty much point to point wired, and actually the way this is laid out you can really see how this crossover is sort of designed. We've got fourth order on the woofer, so we come into this inductor first, we carry on to this inductor with a capacitor down to ground and a capacitor down to ground after this, so fourth order. So we roll off at 24 dB per octave at the crossover frequency. And then this middle section here is the mid-range, so we come in through our 24s which knock out the bottom end. Then we have an inductor down to ground, so a second order on the high pass, and then we follow on to an inductor which will knock out the upper frequencies, and a capacitor down to ground, so second order as well, and then out we go. So yeah, quite a complex arrangement on the mid-range. So that's a band pass arrangement, and then on the tweeter we come into our 4 with an inductor down to ground, and then our 6 on our out to our tweeter, so a third order on the woofer, sorry, the tweeter. So that gives us an 18 dB roll off at the crossover frequency. So yeah, quite a complex bit of kit, but yeah, that's it put together. So we'll solder up the other one. I'm going to do a separate video on crossovers because there's quite a bit to them. I get lots of comments about crossovers, and on this one in particular, how these inductors are laid out, which we wouldn't do it this way. Having them side by side like this will allow a bit of crosstalk. How much is, whether you'd notice it, is negligible. You would tend to turn these on their side, but you never want the same orientation next to each other. And ideally, if you were going to do this, you'd probably put the high pass filter for the tweeter behind the tweeter, the mid-range section by the mid-range, and the woofer by the woofer, so you get that separation. But yeah, I'm going to do a separate video on crossovers, I think, just the different orders, capacitor values, inductor values, resistance, L-pad, Zobel filters, all sorts, and maybe include the different types of drivers in that as well. So yeah, because these are really the heart of the speaker. These are the part that makes the difference. The box obviously has a lot to do with bass performance and everything else, selection of the drivers, but it's this that integrates them together, makes them work properly, and this is where the voodoo happens, the black magic. So yeah, anyway, let's get the other one, which is bare at the moment. Just got the inductors in there, and put this together. A lot of people will do they'll take their speakers apart and they'll do a capacitor upgrade on them, because, you know, without focus, the values are on them, and it's not a difficult thing to buy, you know, replace electrolytic capacitors with polycaps, matching the values and that sort of thing. Sometimes there's a bit more to it than that, but the inductors are the part that people tend to ignore, because 9 times out of 10 the values are not printed on these, so they require measuring both the inductance in millihenries, and the DC resistance as well of these is important. So, you know, people ignore that. On the tweeter, you're going to get your improvements from a capacitor, because that is filtering out the low frequency. An inductor does exactly the opposite, and people just ignore these. They leave the iron core in there because they don't have the equipment to measure them, to then order up differences. And I cannot tell you how much of a difference these make compared to iron core. I've just finished my C33s. You may have watched the videos on that. I'm going to do a follow-up video on those, and I cannot tell you how much better they are because of good components. The difference it makes to clarity, how those speakers disappear, imaging, just details, speed, transient, it's incredible. But anyway, I'm waffling now, so let's get this one done. Okay, so we'll do the woofer first, and we've got a 72, probably can't see that, which is going to go across here, and we've got one to go across there as well. So we'll get this one lined up on the tags. One in. Try and lay those out so you can actually read the values on them. There's no orientation to these, they just go in as they are. I said in some of my other videos, it always amazes me how many variations there are of these Ditton 44s. Yeah, I've seen a lot of different things in the crossovers on these. Iron core inductors, air core inductors. This is the first one I've seen with air core on the whole board. But as we sort of saw earlier on another video, it looks like these crossovers were meant for the 66. I think they're the same, but just an upgrade in components. Okay, so I have 2 caps in for the woofer circuit. So 4th order on the woofer, 24 decibel per octave roll off. That is steep. Yeah, so they're really cutting the woofer off hard. I think 500 hertz it starts rolling off. So 24 decibels per octave, so a doubling of the frequency. So if that starts to roll off at 500 hertz, at 1000 hertz, that will be playing 24 decibels quieter, which is a lot. Right, we've got a 6 to put up the top here. So here is our 6. bit of getting in, but it's in. Okay, so we do the 6 at the top here next for the tweeter. So try and get that underneath the tag again. They've got like these little clips on them. Right, I won't solder the middle one until I get the 2 2s together as well. So using 2 smaller values to make a larger value does have some merit, especially in a high frequency circuit where the speed of the operation of the capacitor is more critical. Get that one under there. They're not the prettiest of crossovers, these. I don't really think that matters. I'm worried about how they perform than what they look like, because you don't exactly see them, do you? So that's our 2 2s in there, our 6. So you can actually see how that's nicely laid out. So positive in here, through these 2, down to ground, through an inductor. If we didn't have that inductor there, these 2 would in effect become 1 capacitor. So this is doing an important job. And then out we go. But like I say, we'll do a video on that, I think. Alright, and then we've just got the 24 to put in there, which will be made up with 2 12s. And that is that. Simple as that. Yeah, so there we go. Doesn't take long, does it? All nicely soldered in there with good solder. So I'm going to cable tie these down, and yeah, that's done. yeah, so I do appreciate the comments I get from people on this. It's good to hear your thoughts and sometimes your recommendations. I've been doing this for quite a while now, so hopefully I'm getting it right. So there we go. That's the other board done. So they're both ready to go in. So next video we will finish off the cabinets, because literally they just need a bit of sanding now and oiling up, and the front and back sprayed black, which won't take long, and then we can reassemble them. And I think I found a tweeter, so yeah, we'll see on that. But there we go. So yeah, quick video on this, and I'll catch up with you all soon.